it's Charlie from Daily Motor. And today we've got the review of the 2020 Lincoln Aviator. And this is the reserve package, so it's second tier in terms of the Aviator hierarchy, if you will. And because it's just now started to rain out of a complete surprise, we're going to start this review on the inside of the car and then see what happens as the day goes along. Maybe we can get back outside once the rain passes. Fortunately, there's a lot to talk about in the interior of the Aviator. Just take a look around here. See how beautiful it is. I really like this color scheme. This kind of light, almost grayish tan with a dark brown on top. Almost kind of like a Hershey's peanut butter cup, chocolate and peanut butter look going. I like it a lot. They made really smart decisions when it comes to where to use what materials. So down here, everywhere you're going to touch regularly, very little piano black. The only piano black plastic I can see is right there, and that's not a big deal. But I'm really glad they didn't go with piano black plastic here because it would just get all scratched up and marked and not look good. But they went with kind of a textured plastic that feels nice. Here is a wood grain that feels good, looks good. They've got nice plastics here, good leather around, everything feels good, feels nice. Got some grippy cup holders with removable inserts to clean. These little slidey doors, they feel good, look good, sound good. Up under here, good amount of storage along with a wireless phone charger. It's kind of an interesting placement for it, but it works well, keeps you from using your phone as much while you're driving along. The only small gripe I have with the build quality is just kind of the feel of the buttons, or more specifically the knobs. They just they feel a little cheap turning them, and they don't turn super smoothly. I think if they went with a metal feel, it would have gone a little bit more to just kind of how they respond. But it's a pretty small nitpick. I like the shifter location, I really do. Some people think, oh, that's very silly. I wouldn't gauge that. Oh, you definitely would. It's very straightforward. Just reach forward, press what button you need. There's no reason why an automatic shifter here in 2020 needs to be a giant column. Got some storage back here that'll actually fit a small purse or other sort of bags, so that's nice. Straightforward glove box. Nothing really to write home about there. Good door pockets. Feel nice all around. Everything just feels good. I really like the steering wheel design. It was comfortable for our 100-mile test. I like these buttons here. Little toggle switches, so you can see, like if I go to phone settings, maybe not. If I go down to those settings, these lights actually switch because the joystick here will have different functions. So I can go through the menu and then go back, and then it reverts back to their other functions. So that's pretty nifty. Same happens here when you activate the cruise control. The cruise lights come on. I think that's a pretty nice touch right there. Pretty classy, Lincoln. This gauge cluster works well enough. It's kind of simplistic looking, but I suppose a lot of people like that, and I guess I do as well. There's a pretty effective head-up display that you may be able to see that shows time, temp, speed, speed limit, and fuel remaining. And then when you have the cruise control on, it shows that as well. You can reconfigure that too if you want different things in your menu. The infotainment screen is pretty straightforward. It's really just Ford's Sync 3 infotainment reskinned for Lincoln. And it's kind of a keep it simple perspective. It's hard to go that wrong when it's just a very straightforward touchscreen, no rotary knob or anything. Everything works. The response time could be a little bit better. You press things and there's just a small delay. It's not egregious, but very middle of the road. It doesn't exactly scream luxury, but it also doesn't scream cheap. So it works. My only gripe is that the ambient light settings are buried way here on the third menu of touchscreen. It would be nice to be able to adjust those just a little bit quicker and easier, especially while you're driving. But maybe that's just a problem for people who shoot YouTube videos. My two petty checks. 1, does this extend? Yes, it does. 2, is there a handle right here? No, there is not. So only a 50% pass for the petty checks. Charlie's petty checks. This Aviator does feature Lincoln's 30-way adjustable seats. So here you've got your main adjustments. You've got headrest, up, down, in, out. You also have main backrest recline and then upper backrest recline. You've got up, down in the front and back, and forward and backward for the bottom rest. And then right here, individual thigh controls, so you can actually extend one and retract the other one if you want your individual legs to have a different amount of support. But if you want to control them together, it's also very easy to do. You just kind of push them both at the same time. And they've designed it to sort of work that way. If you want even more seat adjustments, you can press this button here and bring up on the center screen. You've got a low lumbar, medium lumbar, high lumbar, outer back cushions, and then outer butt cushions as well. Bolsters, I should say. Then you also have a massage function that works quite well, and it is quieter than older Ford massagers. I really appreciate that Lincoln did physical controls for their HVAC. You've got dual zone climate control here, big knob for fan speed, and then toggles for the temperature. They work really well. I'm really glad they didn't bury them in the infotainment screen. Good on you, Ford. Okay, let's hop out and head to the back. Let's see these. I should mention real quick, that sound you hear is a special little jingle recorded by the Detroit Symphony Orchestra just for Lincoln vehicles. So all of the different warning chimes and sounds in the car are nice and peaceful and unique like that to Lincoln. I think that's super neat. Door handles, you can see, don't actually pull. There's just a little button inside there, and then they get an electronic release. Second row is a nice place to be. You got plenty of leg room, plenty of headroom. You've got recline adjustments on your seat, as well as little flip-down armrests. Got a little sunshade should you want to protect yourself or the chillins from the sun. Do have a little screen back here for heated and ventilated seats. Actually, heated and cooled, I should say. Your own climate control, and then a third row climate control as well. Audio settings, and then you can just turn it all off if you'd like, or do a calm screen, which just shows the time and nice aviator flying looking background. Down here you've got USB-A and USB-C, which I should say I appreciate that Lincoln has done both USB-A and C ports whenever they put one in, because right now most people just rely on USB-A, but in the future USB-C will be much more prevalent. So this car is kind of future-proofed in that regard, so smart move on them. And then right here you've got a standard home wall style outlet, putting out 150 maximum watts. Good cup holders here, another little spot for stuff, and then a deep center well. You got another set of power points in there, as well as some kind of just felt material. Works nicely. Now for getting into the third row, press this little button, and the seat comes up. The third row is not as great of a place for full-size adults as the second row. You can see if I scoot over to this seat's reclined all the way back and scooted back. I do not have much leg room. Not only do I not have much leg room, but my butt is really close to the floor, so my knees are up really high. It's pretty much just a place for little people. And that's fine. You've got fully good headrests, you've got cup holders, storage spaces, some tie downs. It's fine for little guys, but you would not want to have adults back here for any extended period of time. Oh, and there's also controls for the panoramic sunroof back here, which I really hope you're able to lock out from the front, because I would not want my kids to be able to open and close that on demand. Okay, it is dry enough, so let's check out the trunk. I won't melt, hopefully. A decent amount of storage back here. We also have a little underfloor compartment, and underneath there is a compact spare tire. Like I said, you've got some more metal tie downs, some grocery bag hooks, nice to see. Subwoofer for the 28 speaker Ultima audio system, Rebel Ultima. Check out link in the description for a full review on that. 12-volt outlet, and controls to power fold the third row. Those go down. Bada bing, bada boom. You got a nice big load floor in here. So that's nice to see. You can even control the seats individually. Pretty nifty. Okay, now that the rain has died down a bit, hop out and take a look at this Aviator here in this pretty silver color. You know, I'm not usually a huge fan of silver cars, but I think it looks nice here on the Aviator. At night, that Lincoln badge actually lights up. It's a little cheesy, but also a little bit classy, if I do say so myself. Big old 22-inch wheels. I wish they were a smaller option, even though they do look good. There's just no sense in ruining your ride quality just to have 40 profile tires on 22-inch wheels. I do really appreciate that Lincoln's done this full light bar setup in the back. I think it looks great. A little bit of harkening back to their older cars, but also just looking good here in 2020. Floating roof design, which you see on so many SUVs these days. Before we get rolling, I will put up the window sticker here. Let you all peruse it at your fancy. As I kind of look through here, we're looking at a total of $75,120 for this Aviator. Packages include the Equipment Group 202A, gives you the Elements Package Plus, Lincoln Copilot, Panoramic Vista roof, the 22-inch wheels, the Luxury Package, some towing and illumination. That's almost 12 grand, and then the Convenience and Dynamic Handling packages, which put us up at our total. 17 city, 24 highway for fuel economy. We managed to do a little bit better than that on our test. Check the link in the description for our highway fuel economy test here on the Aviator. Okay, let's get out on the road. Now, one of the things that really stands out to me driving the Aviator is just how floaty it is. And I appreciate that in a luxury car. I don't think luxury vehicles need to be all hardcore, dynamic, athletically capable. I want my luxury vehicle to be soft. I'll get a motorcycle or a Miata or some sort of sports car if I want raw, hardcore, tracky, go-kart sort of feel. If I'm buying a $75,000 luxury car, the floatier the better. So the ride itself is really good on this air suspension. The downside is that these 40 profile tires on these 22-inch wheels make it so you feel just about every little road imperfection. So the suspension does a good job at soaking up the larger bumps once it gets into the suspension travel, but the little cracks in the road are just transmitted in a way that's really not ideal for a luxury vehicle. The 30-way adjustable seats do a really good job at keeping you comfortable. I've been driving this car around quite a bit over the last week, and I've been perfectly comfortable. One thing that does kind of take away from the luxury quotient in this car, there's some unsmoothness to the driving dynamics. What I mean is you'll be pulling away from a stoplight or getting up to speed or maybe getting back on the throttle, and there can be a little bit of a jolt or an abruptness of power that you just weren't expecting. Braking doesn't seem to be too much. It does seem to be universally smooth, but I think this 10-speed transmission just seems to get a little aloof sometimes. And then you come in with this swell of power from the 400 horsepower twin-turbo V6, and it results in an inconsistency. Sometimes the car's remarkably smooth and supple getting up to speed, and sometimes there's a bit of a joltiness. So it's not all the time, but it's enough to sort of show that there's a little bit missing in the luxuriness of this car. You do have different drive modes, which you change with this little rotary knob. We are in normal, which is effortless and balanced right now. The screen time's out too quickly though. We're going to go over to Excite for responsive and engaging. This is going to firm up the air suspension, make the car a little bit louder by piping in some extra noise, make the throttle response more aggressive. And it does pull. It is very potent engine. I mean, you're moving a lot of weight, but the Aviator does a pretty good job with it. You have paddle shifters, which, fine, I don't care, but I guess I'll use them if they're here. I can't think of any sort of time when I'm just daily driving that I would need paddle shifters. Oh, I'm actually able to get a little bit of oversteer on power. That's kind of cool. It's like a lot of cars in this class with power. You can hustle them, but that doesn't mean it's fun to hustle them. But I suppose being a luxury vehicle, you got to be able to do it all these days. I'm going to put the car in normal now for a 60 to 0 braking test. Drive control malfunction, service required. Well, it did not care for that. Either way, let's turn the air conditioning off here and do a 0 to 60 launch. Let's turn traction control off as well. So like I said, not exactly a rocket, but it gets up and goes when it needs to. Again, on up to the highway here and get an impression of it at 70. You do have a semi-autonomous driving feature here in the Aviator, and it works decently well. It requires you to give a good amount of feedback on the steering wheel to make sure you're paying attention, even if you just have your hand resting. A lot of times that isn't quite enough force onto the wheel. But adaptive cruise works well. Ford systems have always been pretty decent in that regard. So as you can see, now that it sees the lines, I can take my hands off the wheel and car just makes it around the corner for me. I have had it veer off a little bit onto off ramps, and it's a little less than inspiring in that regard, but it does work. I actually kept it on for my entire highway fuel economy test. So the biggest thing with the Aviator is it's another step in Lincoln's revival effort. Lincoln spent decades just making themselves a laughingstock in the luxury vehicle community. Now they're trying to claw their way back up at some legitimacy. Started with the Continental sedan, and then you had the Navigator refresh, and technically you have their other vehicles, the Corsair and the Nautilus. But this Aviator has kind of been like the big return of a nameplate, as well as just kind of like an exciting, new, hopeful product for Lincoln. If I had to say it's a success, yes or no, just based on the product here that I'm driving, I would say yes. Is it the top of its class in terms of full-size luxury vehicles? No. You have to like the looks. You have to be okay with a little bit of just American-ish, American engineering. You can feel it in the controls. You can feel it in the way the car drives. You can even just see it with a 28-speaker audio system that sounds good, but I've heard 9-speaker systems that can hold their own against us. So there's a little bit of a showy look at us mentality to it. So while everything on paper is done well here in the Aviator, it is missing just a little bit of that finesse and professionalism that the top-level luxury automakers pull off. We're talking Lexus, BMW, Mercedes, Audi, and not even talking about the super luxury cars. But the good news is this car is totally recommendable. If you need the towing capabilities, if you need the space capabilities, if you just want to buy American and you want to get a luxury vehicle, if you like the way it looks, if you like the way it drives. All those are perfectly good reasons to buy a car, and there's nothing egregious enough about the Aviator that you should be steered away or you should be discouraged from buying it. It's a car that I was excited to get, and I'm not exactly disappointed for it to leave, but it was nice to have around, and it's a pleasurable experience to drive. It's not exciting, but it's also not disappointing. I would say they're about 85% there here with this Aviator. It's good, but not great. I do really appreciate how light the steering gets in parking lots. I mean, we're talking, like when if I'm reversing right now, it's super easy to turn. And one finger it. I like that. I like light steering in general. I don't think you need heavy steering unless you're pretty much driving a race car. Backup camera works decently. You do have the 360 superimposed camera, and you can zoom in, switch to, like, this is a hitch view. When you're going straight, you can put on this camera and switch to different views. So they work nicely. The resolution's decent. Anyway, the 2020 Lincoln Aviator. Overall, good job from Lincoln. I'm satisfied. Thank you so much for watching. If you want to see more Aviator content, check the links in the description for our sound system test and our highway fuel economy run. If you liked the video, hit that subscribe button. It helps us out a bunch. Check out some of our other videos, and we'll see you on the next one. I'm Charlie from Daily Motor, and as always, drive on.